through it. So, hatch gas pull. Like I said, 2 guys pulled off gas. We're going to send a drone down to that 3rd base. And take that right around 30 supply. Doesn't matter if you're a few supply higher. We're a little bit slow because we're microing our Zerglings around in the middle of the map, but there we go. After that, you want to go 31 Roach Warren. So we're going to put that Roach Warren down. As soon as the Roach Warren's down, we put back on gas. As soon as we pulled back one of our drones that was going to the natural, we're like, hey, get on that gas, as well as an egg. And then we're droning up. Now, because we're getting close to 36 supply where we want to build those Zerglings, we want to start building Overlords right now. We're actually a little bit slow to build Overlords this game. We really should already have those going. There we go, we're starting an Overlord now. Probably should just start 2 straight away, because you don't want to then build the Zerglings and then be immediately supply capped either. So we see here, I add the last few drones while scouting around to hit that 36 supply. I add another Overlord. And I'm preparing to build those speedlings. Now the purpose of the speedlings is all about getting on their side of the map and being able to put pressure on, scout them, make sure they're not being incredibly greedy, see what's going on, and it also gives you a force right at a good timing to try and skirmish with them if they're coming across to the ling bane timing. It is slightly greedy in that if they're going for like a pretty hard ling bane attack like this, he's already on our side of the map by the time our lings are out. And our lings can't really achieve so much. What you usually want to do here is you want to try and run past their Zerglings and intercept their reinforcements. Engaging like this, not particularly good. Thought we had a decent fight there, misjudged the ling numbers and realized, oh, that was a complete waste. But the moment you end up against ling bane, you don't really want to be building Zerglings, you just want to be building roaches, as many roaches as possible. Of course, roaches are very slow, so you want to pull drones out of the natural if it gets in this sort of messy situation. He starts focusing down the 3rd base, and because we see him going for that 3rd, we say, well, we don't want to let you kill that for free, so we're going to come down and try and punish you with our roaches. We're going to try and kill you on the way out in case you try to retreat. And we see, okay, he's actually going to take the fight. So we're focusing down the banelings. We're just like, alright, make sure he doesn't kill too much. Looks like he is going to get some damage down on surrounding the queen on the ramp and so on. So we're just going to run our drones. We know that because he's not actually engaging the roaches, they should be able to clean this up reasonably well. Alright. So this situation looks really messy and crazy, right? So let's quickly talk about the build. You're skipping banelings, you're skipping your mobile mass ling defense, you're skipping the defense that's so damn efficient versus this exact sort of attack that we've just seen. So why exactly are you doing that? Basically it allows you to be, way more efficient at going after the roach game. So if your opponent doesn't attack you at all, you're in a fantastic scenario because you've skipped banelings that were unnecessary, you've gone straight into roaches, which basically fast forwards your ability to speed through to the point of the game where you can be hitting an aggressive attack. And that's what this style is most powerful at. You certainly can macro off this style, 100%. But what we're talking about today is one of the best ways to play non-muta styles in Zerg vs Zerg at the moment in Legacy of the Void. And that is to make sure you're being very aggressive, because if you're not being aggressive, your opponent can often just get to mutas. They can play a little bit greedy. And if that happens, usually you're in a really bad position because mutas just dominate the mid game. Mutas are, they're the ultimate bad guy. Mutas and Zerg vs Zerg are like carriers for Protoss. They just destroy absolutely everything. So you've got to kind of prepare for that. Either by going your own fast mutas, playing the muta versus muta war, or you play for the Roach Bane timing. You play to kill them and punish them before they get to that point. So this sort of build order, because we are skipping those banelings, it's best on a map like Dusk Towers. On this map, notice there's so much space to the 3rd base for Zerglings to abuse us and run around. It's really not as safe. But that's exactly the scenario. I said this build is a little bit risky. It's a little bit out there. Thank you so much for that sub, by the way. So, yeah, basically with this sort of build, you're always going to be a little bit risky on a map like this. If you're on Dusk Towers, on the other hand, where you only have one frontal area to defend and your 3rd's actually in the back, then it's actually incredibly easy to defend against that sort of attack. Roaches are just fantastic, they're the perfect option. So this build is 100% solid if you're on a map like Dusk Towers or something from the older map pool like Orbital Shipyard, where you've got an in-base natural and then a 3rd base that's just at the front. So it's definitely something which is slightly risky. It does get in a messy situation, but it's completely recoverable unless your opponent plays so crisply. So that's what we want to talk about here. So in terms of the build order, if you get in a messy scenario, main-arding those drones, keeping them alive is fine. Losing the third base, not the end of the world. Now, if he was hitting me 30 seconds later, yes, I would fight a lot harder to keep that third alive. But it comes down to timing. If these are the fastest possible roaches I could have gotten, basically, and they're only out when the hatchery is almost dead, there's just no way I could have saved that. But it's up to you to judge. Wait a second, I already had my three roaches out because there was a lot of ling bane skirmish going on when he first moved across the map. Like, in that case, you really should have been able to save the third. Or if he manages to snipe it, you should be killing like every Zergling and Baneling for that trade. And actually being very happy with the trade as a result of that. So in this scenario, yes, we lost the third. Yes, we're in an awkward position, but keep in mind the drone count behind this. To get this damage done, he's not ahead in drones. We're already starting to drone, even in the middle of the fighting here. We're building 3 more drones. He's only up 1 worker right now. Now, behind this, he is going for a lair. Luckily for us, he built it at his third, which is just an obscenely bad decision because our overlord can see it. But no matter what in this scenario, what are we saying to ourselves? We're saying you just threw away a lot of army to hurt our economy. Now that means you can just drone up and get ahead unless we use our standing army to threaten you. So the first thing we do is we say, well, we're not going to give you that room to use that advantage of that third base. We're just going to attack with these roaches. We see here on this map, of course, there's the very specific map feature, the rock towers. The roaches simply walk across the map and start threatening these. Now, behind this, are we actually planning to all in? No, we're all about giving off the idea that we're going to all in. Notice he's building nothing but speedlings right now. He's freaking out. He's so worried about us attacking in here. But all we want to do is scare him. All we want to do is stop him droning. Because notice, we are adding more and more drones at home. We're on 34 versus 31, and we're adding another 4 drones. That being said, we are worried about mutas. We do want to kill him. We want to attack soon, just not right away. We wanted to rebuild our economy because we knew we didn't have enough gas. We didn't have a baneling nest. We figured we didn't even know what we were attacking into. Like, we wanted to recover our economy and then go for the more normal attacks. We said just stick to the plan, get to the normal drone count, and only then will we be attacking. I'm going to remove the build order, by the way, guys. So if you are watching the VOD or whatever, just I'll show that at the end once more anyway. So basically the roaches move across the map. Notice I didn't even kill the rocks because I was worried he'd be able to surround me. And rightfully so, even without the vision. I actually was watching on his third base with this overlord and saying like, whoa, you don't even have any drones there. I also had the peace of mind to not feel forced to attack really quickly. If I didn't see that lair timing, I would have been a bit more worried and I probably would have attacked a lot earlier. Maybe not immediately breaking those rocks down, but soon after. Because I would have thought to myself, mutas could be out really soon. Yeah, his economy is not going to be great, but if he gets mutas out, like our whole attack is screwed, our plan is foiled, man. So for us instead though, we saw the lair timing was so late, we knew his spire couldn't be starting much earlier than about now. So we're trying to hide most of our roaches, just showing this initial 9 roaches, the ones that we counter-pressured across the map with, while the rest are banking up here. And only now, as we get to 22 slow roaches. And notice we didn't even have a lair, we're just starting a lair because an overseer came in, I think. And we're basically just droning, just massing roaches and zerglings. Now, because we think he's going to go mutas behind that, he built so much Zergling Baneling, we're assuming, yeah, it's probably going to be mutas. We went a Baneling nest. Now, if he was just going roaches himself, we'd probably make Ravager Zergling with our gas, the Ravagers rather than the Banelings. Banelings are still decent versus a roach player, but against a muta player, where they're going to be building spines, where they're going to be building lings and banes, nothing is better at supporting your roaches at crashing through those walls of spines than Banelings. Keep in mind, Banelings do 80 damage to structures, and if you blow them up between spine crawlers, you can hit 2, sometimes 3 or 4 spine crawlers with a single Baneling. So that means, 4 or 5 Banelings can take out multiple spines. It's an amazing trade. We do finally come in across here, and unfortunately a few of our Zerglings are a little bit late, and we're actually going to have to fight here without Zerglings, so this is a pretty big error on our part. That being said, we just have so many units. Because we were forcing him to build these Zerglings so early, he was building them off such a low economy, and then adding his drones very late, there's no way for him to defend this. So a small adjustment we could have made to make this timing so much more powerful would be always build 2 or 4 Zerglings ahead of time before you even move across the map. Most of your Zerglings can be reinforcing, but as long as you've got 2 or 4 Zerglings already there, they kind of run ahead of your army, morph Banelings in front, and they're there to help babysit and zone your roaches as they first push in, and then the other Banelings crash in behind. That's just going to work out so damn well for you. So this was an example of two things. It was an example of how to open up roaches skipping banelings and then defend a whole big ling bane timing and kind of rebound even though we took a bunch of damage. It was messy. This is the situation you always end up in if your opponent happens to go for a really big, fast, crisp ling bane pressure and you're on a map where your third is kind of isolated from your natural. But like we said, if you counter pressure with roaches, you don't even need to commit. If you're not reinforcing, you're just droning. There's no reason to commit with the roaches. You just move across the map, freak them out, and then go home. From there, things work out really damn well because you've planned everything out. You've dictated the pace of the game. Thank you so much for the host, Shibamatibbers. So we're going to hop into another replay now. We're going to look at one more of playing this sort of style. And these sort of low economy roach aggressive styles are best on small maps, guys. Keep that in mind. You definitely can play them on your Dusk Towers, though at the highest levels they're falling out of fashion a little bit there. But Prion Terraces, Frozen Temple, Endion to some example because people play a lot greedier on that map. But basically Prion Terraces and Frozen Temple would be the biggest examples. But as the map pool changes, it's always these small, short distance maps where this is going to be the case, where you're going to find people doing that. So here we're going to go into another game on Prion Terraces. Now, what we're going to see in this game is a more standard way of taking a third on these aggressive maps. So not necessarily skipping banelings, but we're still going to be going into that same low economy roach war. On Dusk Towers, you can open ling bane, take a third base, defend with, spine ling bane, or even have just a safety roach warren and go straight to muters. Prion Terraces, you're a madman if you do that, because 2 gold bases, if your opponent gets those up mining really fast, they can just explode into so much aggression. And muters are fantastic. It's just a matter of will you ever make it to the muters? Will you ever survive that long? And 90% of the time, the answer is hells no, you will not. So in this particular scenario, we've just opened up with a hatch first. We're going to be going gas pool again. Pretty standard stuff. Nothing too crazy here. Our opponent's done the same sort of thing on the other side of the map. And one thing we can notice is we are a little bit greedy with our overlord timing, overlord scout. This overlord should probably be checking like down here to see if there's any sneaky lings, or like up here or something. But as it is, ignoring the threat of cheese, let's just look at where we go from there. Double queen, get the zergling speed started. Notice we're leaving on gas. So if you are going to open up banelings, you got to leave on gas. We're going to build 4 zerglings straight away. That's really powerful on maps like this because if you can, slow down their third with 2 zerglings while the other 2 scout, that's always going to help you out. And we're going to go straight for a baneling nest nice and early, pretty soon after we got our first 50 gas. So, this looks pretty typical. Go straight for a third base as well. So baneling nest and then third hatch, or I could go third hatch and then baneling nest. Very similar. But because Prion's such an aggressive map and you want to delay your opponent taking the gold, it works out really well. So notice we're just trying to scout around. We saw the baneling nest here. And we've also got a zergling just denying that third base. Now from here, we realize the threat of ling bane. This third is very far away. There's a lot of open area. There's no way you're ever going to have your defensive anchor set up. So if you guys are wondering what do I mean by defensive anchor, I've talked about it in a few videos before, but basically it's the idea that in ling bane versus ling bane, in the open ground, the aggressor should always win. He has a huge advantage because he's threatening your drones, he's threatening your bases, so the defender is forced to engage. And it's impossible to be cost efficient against ling bane with just ling bane, because banelings take more hits to kill another baneling than, of course, then can be cost efficient. It takes 2 banelings to kill a baneling. You're never going to get multiple queens down here and defending both the third and the ramp until you get queens out. So what we've done instead is, let's go back just a little bit, and I'll show you one more time. From 32 supply, we've started building a lot of zerglings. So this is the more solid way, some would say, of opening up into aggressive roach play. Now, it's pretty advanced going for a third this fast, but I think it's definitely something where if you keep the pressure on your opponent, you should have the space to do it. So notice from 32 supply, we start to build zerglings. After our initial few zerglings, big wave of zerglings in production. Just many, many zerglings want to build one big wave. And the job of that wave is going to be to keep the fighting on my opponent's side of the map. Now we aren't morphing 2 banelings here because it's such a short distance map, as well as one aggressively on his side of the map, which unfortunately he will find. And as we get most of those zerglings out, we want to go across in one big pack. And behind that, immediately, drones, a second gas, and a roach warren. So yeah, the roach warren's later than the previous game, but you can tell we're still beelining towards the ability to build lots of roaches and lots of banelings or ravagers very early on. So the lings are going to try and pressure. If you can kill the third, then that's absolutely amazing, but it's not necessary. All you need to do is make sure that you force your opponent to play honestly. Force them to build plenty of defensive units. We see here, just taking what trades we can, using our banelings to zone, and we're just going to try and blow up that third. Behind this, what are we doing? We're continuing to drone for the moment. And keep in mind, you always build a few zerglings. You either leave some safety banelings at home, or if you're playing at a pretty advanced level, build 4 zerglings as you move across the map. And these here are your insurance policy zerglings. They don't know it, but their job is basically to just hold on for time. They're the sacrificial lamb zerglings, where the moment your zerglings fizzle out on his side of the map, and this is why you don't want to just headbutt into a baneling, because you don't want them to fizzle out too quickly, they're going to run across the map with the huge number of zerglings you forced out of them. In this case, there's not actually that many, but normally at this point there'd be, oh, we've killed all your zerglings, big ball of lings run across, and that's why you've got to have these guys pre-morphed into banelings. So we're a little bit slow to morph those into banelings this game, but there we go. And they're going to help keep you alive and buy time for these roaches to get out. So notice we haven't even used our third base yet, and this is very standard. Now what we do want to do is, now that we've secured the area, we've got roaches and banelings out, we are going to transfer drones down to take use of those gold minerals. But for the most part, you don't actually need to build extra workers for it. Notice we're only at 30 drones. Now a lot of the time we'd go a little bit higher, because it takes not so many drones to saturate these gold minerals. We're only at about 2 bases saturated and 1-2 gas guys. And remember, that's the magic point. That's all you need to build a whole bunch of Roach Bane or a whole bunch of Roachling Ravager. Roach Bane is something I've just been doing like almost every game lately, just out of laziness, because it's so easy to execute. But we see here, I do start to diverge a little bit. Now, why am I not just committing all out? Why did I kind of go for this half-ass pressure? Let's go back just a little bit. And what you want to look at is always, what is your opponent doing? So in that last game, we saw an example of a guy who was trying to go mutas, and we just friggin' killed him. We punched him in the face and he fell on the ground and started crying. This time we're looking at another guy who also is keen for a bar fight. He's also keen for, let's throw some roaches over the bar, smash some glasses over each other's face, which is this sort of low economy roach game. And we actually scout this quite early on. I'm not sure if it was a zergling, but pretty sure we spotted some of these roaches coming out. So we basically said to ourselves, it was either that or we were just being a bit unsure in this game. We've basically said, look, I built these roaches defensively to make sure he couldn't kill me with a counterattack. You know, I know his third's way later than mine. But because he doesn't have that third, I'm like, well, you know, yeah, he might have been mining more than me, because I definitely built my zerglings earlier than he did. Like, it's not like I'm massively ahead or anything, but we got to be really safe. So it's like, okay, we built some roaches and now we're droning up. And even if we're on equal bases, if your opponent's going roaches and you're not confident you can kill them with roaches, usually you end up doing this, where you're like, all right, just drone a little bit. But it's always in dribs and drabs, because this is such an aggressive situation. And whenever you're in this, it really is a bar fight. It's like a knife, the classic knife fight in a phone booth sort of description of ZvZ, where you're both just like, hey, all right, cool, all right, we can't really attack, we're gridlocked, we've got even armies. And then you build like 8 drones. You're like, yeah, 8 drones. That's like not even many. Like in a different matchup, if we're gridlocked, I build like 20 drones at once and then go back to unit production. But it's ZvZ. So you build 8 drones and your opponent like actually takes the fight and he just like overwhelms you and wins the game, and you feel like a complete moron. And you're like, what the hell? Like this matchup's bullshit. This doesn't make sense. This is absolute madness. But keep in mind, you've got to be so careful with that droning. So here, because we felt a bit ahead, and because our zerglings, most importantly, were running around buying time on that third, we're distracting him. We've got great overlord coverage, so we were pushing our economy greedier than we normally would. And I say greedier than we normally would, it's still only like an 8-9 drone lead, and even that's very temporary. We basically were just like, okay, let's drone the gold minerals and take a 4th gas. And I think we actually made the mistake of not realizing we didn't have many drones on minerals in our main. We like forgot to resaturate that. So we probably thought we were being even greedier than we were here. Because 4 gases at this point, whilst, you know, it's kind of necessary because you got 2 gold bases, like the drone count's not all that impressive. And oh my god. It's always so funny. I remember this game, we get this guy. This was like my happiest moment. just not watching. By the way, guys, a really cool tip. If you're running overlords away from ravagers, a really awesome person in chat told me just yesterday that you almost always want to run the overlord either directly up or down or directly side to side. You don't want to go diagonally. And why do you not want to go diagonally? It's because the overlord has a square hitbox. In this case, I just threw those behind where the overlord already was. But basically, if you imagine the corrosive bile as a small point, say you place them here, the thing is, the overlord, if you land those corrosive biles anywhere in here, then basically he will get hit. So if he moves diagonally, it exposes this bottom right corner. That bottom right corner is going to stay in the middle for a long time. Whereas if you go straight up, straight left, you know, down, right, then you're actually going to get out of the area of it a lot quicker. So that was a really cool tip from someone in chat. Shout out to whoever that was if you're watching right now. Thank you very much, because I never thought about that, but that's actually a really cool tip. So yeah, Twitch chat actually gave me some good coaching the other day. So basically, we're just doing some non-committal kind of roach back and forth in the earlier stages. But then, at this point, notice we're just building huge numbers of roaches, lots of stuff. And we are just going to be pulled back a little bit here by these Zerglings. Zerglings, you know, they become useless once you get large numbers of roaches. But they're so good for just buying time. Now, notice we've only got a lair. We don't have an Evo chamber. A lot of players are still stuck in that heart of the swarm mindset of let's always, every single game, just make upgrades. Let's go +1 in roach speed every single game. I really think this is overrated in Legacy of the Void. I think mutas are so powerful, partly because you get your third bases a lot earlier. It's much more reliable to get a third base. So a lot of players are kind of going for these upgrades, and while they definitely help a lot in the roach wars, they still help a huge amount. They delay your ability to get to the much more decisive and much more game-ending tech, aka mutas. Mutas just friggin' rip everything to shreds. So even here, where I'm down a +1 range upgrade, it's like, well, I'd still committed to my roaches pretty hard earlier. Definitely, we probably should have been able to do a lot better here than we did. I remember at this point in the replay being like, what the hell? What's going on? Why did they not just win the game? And then I kind of looked back at my main and was like, oh, I have 6 drones in there. Okay, my economy is actually a lot lower than I realized it was. But this is often a situation you'll end up in even if you don't make bad decisions like I did this game, where you have to say to yourself, what do I really want to do to end the game? So you've got option 1, just commit to mass roaches, don't even make a lair, go roachling ravager, roachling bane, and just friggin' overwhelm everything. Just go for the kill. And you know what's really great about that? Is you both like have really limited scouting. If we think to like a few minutes earlier in this replay, like let's look at this point. We're kind of like, after I did my first fake pressure, how much information does he have about how much I'm droning? Not really that much. So what you can do, right, is if you are going to go for that all-in especially, but you should probably do it always, you set up like 5 roaches down here in front of your third, the rest like another like 5 roaches here, a few roaches here. So there's just no way they can get in. Like they try to send some lings in, they're going to have to really commit a whole bunch of lings that'll die running past to see your drone count. So what you can do is you can just leave those, set your rally point at the back, and just hide your other roaches that are rallying out. You see these guys are kind of hiding, or a few of them are anyway. And basically they have no idea what you're doing. So your opponent's always going to be like, you know what? I better keep up in those workers. I bet he's droning right now. Yeah, let's build 10 drones. And that's kind of what happened this game, right? Where he's just like, oh yeah, let's build a whole bunch of drones. Roach speed, +1 range, lair. Yeah, let's get overlord speed. Yeah, let's do all those things. And that's actually like insanely risky. And because of the lead we had earlier, especially because of that, we should have been able to kill him exceptionally easy this game. So that's why this is not a perfect example, but at its core, we get to see a lot of those issues where if we were just massing up roaches and then we're like, yeah, you've got all those upgrades about to finish, but we've got 40 slow roaches and you have 11 speed roaches with +1. And you just roll over them, especially if you have Zerglings to wrap around roaches and then it allows you to land the corrosive bile. You can just absolutely crush. So that's why you've got option 1, which is let's just fucking commit all in, let's go, man. Because apparently if you go all in, you sound like a deranged junkie, according to my imagination. But hey, come on, let's face it, that's what we all think of when we see someone who just does the most mindless, like, I'm gonna make 35 slow roaches and then attack you cheese. So there's that. Number 2 is, let's try and tech up a bit. Let's get some upgrades, kind of like he did. That's the one I don't really like as much. Because I feel like if you're going to tech up, you should always have in your mind mutalisks. Either you're committing all out with the early aggression, or you're going to mutalisks. And it isn't just for this style. I think that generally should always be your game plan in Zerg vs Zerg. If you want to get good at Legacy of the Void, you always either want to be punishing your opponent, teching up too hard, whether it's to mutas or upgraded roaches, or you want to be going to mutas yourself. I feel like those are the most decisive ways to play. Yeah, that's my opinion, but it's backed up a lot by a lot of the games we're seeing at pro level as well. So we see here, we take a big fight, it goes okay, but how are we going to get out of this now? Because we realize, wait a second, he's up 2 workers. Okay, we put a 4th hatch halfway done, that's a nice edge for us. You know, we're on what? How many gases are we on? We're on 4 gases, he's on 4 gases. But he's up. He's got upgrades, we don't. He's got his roach speed already finished, ours is just there. And this is where we need to say, like, wait a second. We kind of went too middle of the road this game, didn't we? Like we were saying before, we droned up a bit, we did it a little bit awkwardly. We didn't drone quite as hard as we should have, so we went for this middle of the road number of drones. We were like, we're kind of using 3 bases, but not fully. And we're getting lair, we're getting roach speed, but they're not actually done in time for our attack. So what we did is we weren't decisive enough this game, which is why things have slipped out of our control. So now we're saying to ourselves, well, I think we're still pretty even in unit numbers. We're still not going to go for upgrades because we'd still be so far behind for so long. And oh man, that's a huge mistake. But what can we do? Okay, let's build one pretty big round of drones and let's go for Spire. Now, I distinctly remember this is the point where the replay just gets messy. I actually thought I put the Spire down 40 seconds early, 30, 40 seconds earlier, and then I was like, what? It's not down, it didn't start. And I put it down, which puts us in even more of a desperate situation. But this is good because it helps show exactly how hard it is to defend, but also how do you need to defend when you get in this situation where it's roach versus roach, you're going mutas, but the mutas are quite late. You've got to spend your gas on extra Ravagers. Corrosive Bile kind of works like adding upgrades to your army anyway. It forces them to move their concave to avoid the corrosive biles. It allows you to set up a really strong defensive position. And if you've ever tried to force your way into an opponent who has a lot of Ravagers and puts out really well-spaced corrosive biles, then you would know this is like nightmare times 5. It is the worst thing you can encounter. It's just so painful. You're like, yeah, I've got an upgrade leader. Like, you know, I got like 10 Hydras in the back of my army. This will go great. Next thing you know, you're just walking into a fiery death and you hate yourself. So yeah, basically we just stopped at this relatively low drone count of 53 drones. Keep in mind, I mean, that's Zerg versus Zerg. Your bases are running out, but even though these are running out, we don't have many drones on that 4th. We managed to squeeze in a 7th gas, which is just us being really greedy, trying to make up for the fact that, you know, we kind of had an awkward early game. And we start splitting off roaches and trying to counterattack. We start trying to run around and pick at his heels because we know the bigger the army gets, we know his +2 range is done now. We can't fight in front of him. We just need to buy time, man. We need to buy time ever so desperately. So we're trying to get out as many mutas as we can, trying to add flyer attack upgrades for them. And we're thanking whatever deity that we happen to praise right now that he is not pushing across that map, and our mutas are going to get out. But even though that's happening, we're still splitting off more roaches, because if he pushes across the map, he might just be able to overwhelm our guys so quickly. So we've got roaches hitting on the bottom, we've got roaches hitting on the top, just coming in from multiple sides, trying to be as annoying as possible, not being microed particularly well. But we do need to clear up supply to build more mutalisks as well, so it's actually not the end of the world. And the mutas are going to beeline directly towards the drones. Now, a lot of players are like, well, mutas aren't that strong, right? He can just add some Hydras and then you're kind of screwed. Well, keep in mind, why are mutalisks so strong? Why are Hydras so bad, specifically in this scenario? Now, already, a lot of you would have experienced, yeah, I mean, I got out some Hydras, I had about 20 of them, and then speed banes came in from 3 different directions, and mutas as well, and I lost my entire army, and I felt like a douchebag. Yeah, we've all experienced that, it sucks. But it's not just that, it's that Hydras are expensive. Yes, they kind of suck against banelings, they also suck against mutas in small numbers, but they're incredibly expensive, and because you've been in a Roach War forces low economy. Remember, I was being exceptionally greedy. I'm at 52 drones. He's at 53 drones. He's only got 5 gases. He still hasn't taken this 6th gas. He can't afford hydras. Not only that, but what else? Can hydras really be everywhere at once? No, they can't. Hydras can defend in a ball. Mutas are always going to be more mobile. What if you come here? The hydras have to run from the main all the way down. What if you then fly up the ledge into the main? The hydras can't be everywhere, which means you need spores. Now think about it. At this stage of the map, you actually want to be taking a 5th base pretty soon because your bases are running dry. 4 bases are 100% essential because your main base is half mined out. Your natural also getting half mined out, which on Prime Terraces looks a lot like being fully mined out. But basically, yeah, you've got this situation where you need to defend 4 bases. So let's think about it. Spore, 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 spore. At least about 8 spore crawlers. Keep in mind, you're only on 53 drones. Take 8 drones out of that for those spore crawlers. Okay, now we're at 45 drones. Oh, not only that, you just spent your entire 1,000 mineral bank on those spores. The fuck? What are you going to use to build hydras? What are you going to use to do anything? So whenever anyone realizes there's mutas, normally the first thing they have to do, even in a normal situation earlier in the game, is build a shitload of drones first so they can absorb the damage that building the spores, building extra queens, that sort of stuff, is going to do. Not to mention there's overlords on the map, any ravagers that get sniped. Each ravager costs as much as a mutalisk, so any ravager that gets caught on the map is a huge loss. Basically, mutas are really fantastic. So even though often the other guy can get out enough ball of hydras to defend, he can't do that at the same time as getting spores up to defend all his bases. He can't do that at the same time as pushing you. So your mutas can just dive around, avoid his hydras, and be a giant pain in the ass. So let's take a look again. These mutas are going to dive in here. Now, we didn't notice that he was actually going for tunneling claws. He's hitting our bases, 3 mineral lines at once. But we're going to be pretty quick at splitting our roaches up and getting on top of that. Meanwhile, the mutas focus down drones, but the moment we see his roach ball start moving across the map, we know we aren't a match for his roach ball. We've only got 31 roaches and 11 ravagers with no upgrades except roach speed. He has 52 roaches and 9 ravagers with +2 range, which is the most important upgrade in Roach vs. Roach. So the moment he does turn around, look, we're focusing down those ravagers. One ravager goes down, we force him to burrow, and we say, okay, cool, let's go back to killing drones, killing their economy. Oh, ow. We were dealing with the roaches there, so we actually lost a few meters to corrosive bile. That always hurts. But yeah, all in all, once you get mutas out, you're just in an amazing position. You've got so much freedom, so much leeway to do so many different things. And you can just keep building that muta count. Now you see we're adding a Hydra in because we do want to transition to lurkers. It's all preference, but usually you want to just build a really sick muta count up, at least about 15 or 20. Because once you hit 20 mutas, yeah, you got a spore. You come in and you just kill a spore crawler. It won't even kill a single mutalisk once you've got 20 mutas, especially if you pull back the first muta that they start attacking. So yeah, it's just one of those things where so many free pickups with mutas. If you manage to get them out, it's absolutely crazy. So something I really advise people to do is, if you are playing a ground-based style, learn to play these early all-ins. Learn to play these aggressive styles, but if you want to transition from there, don't get so focused on this idea of +1 range. Don't get so focused on this idea of roach speed. Yeah, they're nice upgrades to have, but you know what? Roaches without those upgrades can still defend pretty damn well, especially with ravagers. And you know what will totally turn any superior roach army upside down and turn it into a useless ball of crap? A nice big ball of mutalisks. Mutalisks are just so bloody fantastic. So from here, they're just going to do a fantastic job. So, a bit sloppy with my mutas here. This is nowhere near a perfect game. It's just a good example of a nice transition. So we're going to fast forward a little bit. Ugh, man, this is like how not to control mutas 2.0. Friggin' bad control, man. We're still building a few more mutas. We are just stopping at +1, going to hive, lurk it in. See ya. I said see ya really weird then, didn't I? Thea. So we're going to keep counterattacking with roaches because, this roach ball, not that amazing in a front-on fight. And, yeah, we're letting ourselves get a bit cornered here. So this is really sloppy for me to get caught like this, trying to transition to lurkers too quickly. If we had just masked mutas, we probably could just overwhelm the Hydra count quite easily. We easily would have had enough gas for it. So definitely massing mutas would have been great. Otherwise, we should have been ready to base trade, which we weren't. Luckily, though, we did have 2 roach counterattacks set up. They are going to be able to overwhelm the economy, and we aren't running drones away. Thing is, if you kill their economy, your mutas are just going to get like unlimited value. So look at this. Your mutas can always find isolated units in these messy situations. Pick off a few hydras, few roaches. Every single hydra that goes down is pretty brutal. And even though he's wrecked our economy, guess what? We've wrecked his just as much, if not more. And these mutas are just such a threat. And at this point we're realizing, like, I guess I should keep getting muta upgrades and more mutalisks. I'm ever the one to tech towards those hydras and lurkers a little bit too quickly. But the thing is, the mutas, when you use them cleverly, and you don't just like YOLO when you're outnumbered into the hydras, but you actually take advantage of the fact that he never had the chance to afford enough static defense. He's got a single spore at each base. What is that? A single spore? No one cares about a single spore. And from here, we're just going to take these faraway expansions and deal with that as best we can. So he's going to try and base trade once more. We're going to come in with our mutas, start picking off units from behind. We've still got a little ball of Roach Ravager. We've also got a few lurkers as well. So he's going to snipe off one of our bases. We've still got a base up there. We know that as long as we can keep his economy down, then it doesn't matter what his ball does. We can just get lurkers up, defend one ramp, something like that. And this is exactly what we talked about. We pull back the first muta, the spore starts shooting, we just kill it. Super easy. And it's just so hard for them to deal with the maneuverability of the mutas. We can just kill this hatch, fly on up here. I mean, Overlord party, that's always nice. He's supply blocked forever now. And these mutas are just going to get constant value. So from here, I think that's basically the end of the episode. Let's just fast forward through Benny Hill theme. That's not the Benny Hill theme, but we'll do our own weird music. Yeah, come on, come on. Alright, so our mutas are just going to dance around, being abusive douchebags. Doesn't matter if you can't fight their army front on, as long as you're smart with your mutalisks, you're always going to get some good shit done. And behind that we are mining just a little bit and making lurkers a few at a time. Of course, if you ever snipe off their tech, that's huge as well. That's exactly what we're talking about. Mutas are so powerful. Spores nowhere near as good as they used to be against them. And hydras just cannot be everywhere at once. He's going to come up there with some tunneling roaches. He just keeps on losing his economy. I forgot how long this replay went past the useful parts, but I really want to show you guys the end of the game because I like showing off when I win games, so that's always nice. It's like, I actually won a ladder game, oh my god, I'm special. And he literally just GG's because he's like, well, crap. You know, we're just going to lose this game ever so slowly. And he does finally tap out of that. So massive thanks for watching, guys. To summarize those points, the build order. I'll put the build order on screen one last time. So whether you're watching at home and you want a screen cap on the stream, or if you're watching on YouTube, there you go. Up there's the build order. That's the opening build order. We didn't do it in the second game. That was slightly different. But there you go, there's your opportunity to do that. So massive thank you to the sub, H&K Olov, thank you everyone for watching. So keep in mind, aggressive Roach play is really fantastic. There's a good build order you can try out, it's amazing on Dusk Towers. But even if you're not doing that, playing on these small maps, a very aggressive Roach timing attack style is fantastic. And when you're first learning the style, one of the best things you can do is just attack with it. Just go all in, just always commit to the big ball of, 15, 20 slow roaches, masses of zerglings behind it, whether it be with ravagers or banelings, depends on the situation and up to your own preference. And really commit to these timings, get comfortable with doing it. And then once you start to adjust a bit more and realize like, oh, he's also doing a similar sort of slow roach style, maybe I'm going to actually transition on up to those mutas, add a few more drones. But remember, it's all about low economy wars. It's all about, oh, you can't just build 10, 15 drones at once if you're both locked on a small map in Roach vs. Roach. It's all about droning little by little. It's about taking those edges a very little bit at a time, and then playing it very carefully. So also, don't emphasize those upgrades as much. I really think just going to mutas is 1,000 times better in many situations. There definitely are scenarios where those upgrades are great, but especially if you're going for those upgrades in a sort of late, diluted manner, it's usually better to go straight for mutas. If you've kind of planned for those upgrades early on, your build's heading towards them much quicker, it usually makes a lot more sense. So that's a good build order. That's for skipping banelings, showing how to absorb ling bane attacks even when you lose your third and then recover, showing how to hit those fast roach all-ins. The other big style of Zerg vs. Zerg, which I am coaching people on at the moment, is fast, just mutas, just macro, 3-base muta play, really solid, well-rounded, going straight up towards that. So that's something I'll do another episode on at some other point. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate the support. Like, subscribe, whatever, follow, comment, ask questions. There'll be info in the description of the YouTube video with the build order as well. Thanks, guys. I'll catch you next time. Cool.